In accordance with the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, this channel is not to be viewed by children under the age of 13. Viewer discretion is advised. Hey everybody, Drinking Mark here, and welcome to part 17 of Let's Play Regions of Ruin. Last we left off, well, we finally cleaned up what was left of the continent. I also, off-screen, went to find out where that last beacon was, and it was here. The protruding ruins. Had to look up on Steam to figure out how to do that. But not only do we have access to Rothgar, the entrance of the Dwarven City, we also have access to the ancient treasure vault. Let's go there. So, not really much has been going on. I mean, the Necroids expansion's been out for early for some people, and people have just been, wanting to try it out. Hello. Looks like we're here. The Great Treasure Vault. I wonder what's buried here. Yeah, I know we barely talked to this guy at all, but... Oh, I also got some cool stuff from checking out some things. Oh. We can actually have a storage space here. That's new. The Hall of Wealth, established by Bronerman and Axebeard to cache hope for the future of dwarven kind. I've never been here. In honor of Axebeard, the mighty axe thrower, may his deeds resonate for eternity. Ooh. Played a great axe of Flint Grove. Dense great sword of the Thunder Gods. Shouldn't it have lightning then? Tanhai the Monkey Clan? Oh, Thornkite. I guess this is like for endgame stuff. Oh yeah. Aw. I was hoping for something new. Let's see. Ooh, better helmet? Yes. Alright. Axebeard sidearm. Wait, sidearm? Oh. Runner's Blockade? Oh, that's got some good regeneration. I mean, that's still good, but dang. Let's see what's in the big chest. Oh my god. Ooh. Good armor. This is just good all around. No way we're selling any of this stuff. Especially the legendary stuff. So it looks like Axebeard and Ronagern left it here. In honor of Bronerman, the Juggernaut, may his deeds resonate for eternity. Here lies Powell the Minstrel, the most skilled musician to ever live. Here lies Gustav, the world's most renowned cook. Here lies the Lucerne Wizard, known for his arcane mastery over all creation as we know it. Here lies Axebeard, born as Alex the Wild. Here lies Daniel, who never came back from vacation. Here lies Lisa, the tenacious bronze-bearded warrior. Here lies Azrael, the mastermind known for his great battle stratagems. Here lies Arimati, the masterwork crafter. I wonder if these guys were all... No, they can't all be developers. Like developer cameos? I doubt it. But... that was the treasure vault. I've never been here. I've never been here, actually. Let's at least put some of this stuff away. Okay, let's get back to camp. Well, that didn't take long. I was expecting this to be even bigger, with like developer cameos and stuff. I guess this will do. Alright. We got some good stuff, though. That's good. So, what now? Well, we could take on the Goblin King. Wait, what? Is there still more? What? I did explore the cavern. Did I? Oh, it's prevent a man sign. Holy crap. Probably sent some guys to clean that place up. Let me check this place again. I know I got everything, right? Right? Yeah, I know I did. That's weird. I mean, you might as well bring my allies here in this. I'm sure they would love to see this place too. Nope, not. It's weird how they're all... It is weird. Well, yeah, now that we've already taken care of this, we could take on the Goblin King, but I did promise we'd read the compendium, so let's do it. A Brief History of Dwarven Kin. A Dwarven Allfather is a religious figurehead, not to be trifled with. In order to become an Allfather, one must first become a Caste Lord, and only the fiercest warriors become Caste Lords after 200 years. The Lord can then compete in a series of grueling adventures to see which deserves the honor title Allfather. A Brief History of Dwarven Kin 1. A Brief History of Dwarven Kin 2. Each clan dyed, braided, and wore their beards in a fashion exclusive to their mountain home. Each braid, each knot, and each strand was an exclamation, a silent nod to that house's feats. Each member proud of the heritage that style brought forth, from the Underdwarves to the Golden Hammer Dwarves. Each had a history, a tale to tell. Huh. You know, there's actually some pretty good lore in this game. Every dwarf lived under the Marble Oath, a series of mantras that they would mumble under their breath. The oath spanned dozens of books and dictated law, education, work ethic, and clan names. A dwarf unable to recite the oath in under a week could never be considered for a post as a Caste Lord. A week? I hope that the Dwarven language was simple. That they can recite all that in, like, just under a week. Dang. Dwarven family structure is complex, to say the least. Many believe females do not exist, while others swear dwarfs sprout up overnight. Dwarven King keep this secret to themselves, either out of jest of other races, or to ensure their secrets are never divulged. Many a Lich King has found his end prying at the mountain cores in an attempt at uncovering the secrets of Dwarven life. A Brief History of Dwarven Kin 4. I think there's like a reference to Gimli. Caste lords began as mountain barons who held an underduke. Once every 200 years, an underduke would battle 3 other underdukes to first blood, and he who won all single combat became the new caste lord of that mountain. In this way, lineage was not a determining factor of dwarven leadership, but strength and resolve. Brief History of Dwarven Kin 5. That's actually rather cool. Dwarven crying masks were worn for an entire year to celebrate the passing of an allfather. As dwarves are robust, the need to bear sorrow physically is shameful to their culture. Crying masks allowed mourning to continue to be a private matter while obstructing work. Dwarven doctors wear a similar mask all the time to keep their clients from knowing when they grimace. Brief History of Dwarven Kin 6. Dwarves do not discriminate in terms of tasks and their worth. Pride in one's job is first and foremost, and dwarves will do the work typically tasked to human females with the same zeal. With the same zeal they would any job. Cleaning, cooking, and sewing with aplomb? Praise is the highest reward, and a dwarven compliment of your cooking would feel as satisfying as slaughtering an encroaching orc skirmishing party. Wow, they don't discriminate. That's actually pretty nice. Even dwarves have to cook and clean. I can work with that. Dwarven scribes have always preferred stone and marble over paper and writing, only adopting the latter in the past 1,000 years due to expansion into the lands above ground. Paper often caused itchiness, and any dwarf worth his salt would always prefer the smooth texture of stone to the coarseness of paper. Born of rock, written in rock is the traditional dwarven saying. Oh. That's it. Well, that's a brief history of Dwarven Kin done. Now for the Book of Norn. The old kin referred to the more reptilian form of the traditional Goblin as the Goblin, or Hobgoblin in the common tongue. Generally taller, more intelligent, and ochre in color, these beings comprised of the vanguard of the Goblin army, serving as ranking officials in the Horde. Norn noted that killing the Hobgoblin would weaken the rank and file Goblin zeal. Good to know. Simple-minded, razor-toothed, and mean, a goblin has a lot going for it. All of it bad. Nobody knows where they came from, but they were first spotted in smaller raiding parties on the southern borders of the nebulous mountains. Their entire species functions as a single civilization, a single unit. But internally, their power structure is fractured beyond any reasonable semblance of order. Over time, goblin weaponry evolved to the state they're currently in. At first, they rushed into combat with simple spears. Serrated edges lined with poison on them augmented the rudimentary weaponry. Any other civilization would take the concept and apply it to other weaponry. Goblins need to reinvent the entire concept for each weapon, with serrated poison swords just now coming into existence. A mere 200 years after the introduction of the first serrated spear. Man, goblins are dumb. Kinda reminds me of the orcs. And our axes felled them by the dozens, their shield lines falling under the weight of our powerful strikes. Dwarves are naturally more powerful than enemies up to 5 times larger than them, and a well-paced strike to a shield will phase all but the most powerful of enemies. Dwarves issued the elf bow millennia ago upon conception of the dwarven throwing axe, a smaller, lighter hand axe that allowed extreme precision due to its ergonomic nature. I've seen a master dwarf axe thrower completely lop off a harpy wing mid-swoop through an enemy battle line. Bantas the rogue designed the first throwing axe over 200 years ago, and since then kin have had them on their person at all times. Huh, I think we have ours then. Dwarven honor names are the most of utmost importance. They tell a story, your story. Your eyesight was poor before the anvil/hamster incident, and I understand you lost both of yours to a mishap with a cat and a goblin thief, but that's no reason to say either of your honor name is valued less than the other kin. Both of you are heroes in your own way. I can't tell. I wonder if that was addressing to the people reading this. Dwarven masonry has no equal. They are the alpha and the omega of stonework. Legend has it that there were no dwarven women because they create each other out of stone. infused with magma found in the heart of the Golden Mountains. That would actually be the most metal way to birth dwarf women. And the horde approached, gashing and crashing, drooling and screaming. 20 kin, led by Norn the Underking, managed to hold off an entire orc legion for a fortnight while the rest evacuated to the east. It took him 10 years, but Norn returned home, limping and mangled, but he returned a true hero. Wait, he fought for a decade? That's just badass. Not a noble by birth, Norn put kin at the forefront of every action he undertook. It's for this reason that after the reconquest of the Under, the noble council and Allfather bestowed Norn an honor with an honorary title, Under King. Norn led a series of expeditions past the Under, further and further into enemy territory. He conquered Lich and Fell Beast alike, Demon and Thunderer, every conquest in the name of his kin. For decades, it was all the enemy could do to hold him back. He was truly invincible. As with all entities, with all life, everything starts with a why. The general belief is that dwarven kinship was light, respectful of the natural balance, powerful. At some point, something born of oppression, of their antithesis, their bane, manifested, blooming and basking in the light given off by the dwarven kin. Ruin awoke from its greatest slumber. Oh, we're getting some backstory on the dwarves now. Norn's mangled body wouldn't dissuade him nor his entourage of ruin seekers. The Under was home to a broken core, a crack in the essence of the universe. It was the only place a being such as Ruin could reside. Its foul influence hung over the old halls like a stench that flooded your senses, pushed into your will, twisting what you were, yet Norn did not falter. And this is how Norn the Great, the pure, liberator of Under, the defender of innocence, the lifeblood of kin, the slayer of countless, the slayer of horseborn, the subjugator, Orcbane, this is how he became Norn the of Ruin. Wait, what? Wait. Norn of Ruin. Did he get transformed? Okay, we need to know more at this now. The first Salt Isle dwarves were said to have crossed the Jagged Straits after fleeing the Horde. Norn's selfless actions allowed an enclave to sail to the north, and little communication existed for hundreds of years after. All that was known was that these seafaring dwarfs survived. Salt Island dwarves are the stuff of legends. Dwarves traditionally claim that they have blue beards, mate with mermaids, and worship an unseen water god. Old wives' tale meant to scare children assuredly. Okay, if they're making a sequel of this game, I want to see this now. The great cast lords were the leaders of each of the surrounding mountains. Dwarves claim they are such born of the earth, and as such inheritance of the mountains, and their underground cities, was delegated to the clan that first populated one. Huh. That's the Book of Norn. Okay, let's read the Book of Ruin now. The Age of Ruin began 50 years ago, but traces of what was to come could be found in the outermost realms up to a dozen years prior. Goblin warbands working in conjunction with a Lich Lord could be found to the south. To this day, nobody knows what exactly caused the alliance, but it was the beginning of the end of the Golden Age of the Dwarves. He's going to Mars. After Norn's defeat at Under... Wait, oh, that explains what he lost. He literally got his butt kicked by the Ruin. The Dwarven Exodus began. For the next 20 years, the Castle Lords fell. 2 baronies fell almost overnight in the north, while the eastern duchies fell within a year. The enemies began working in waves, coordinating in a manner the dwarves have never seen. The undead would push as a unit, while Kobold Spearmen would pelt our units from afar. Ruin has never been seen before, but its presence hangs over the continent like a thick fog. It's believed to befuddle your mind, twisting and turning your will, eating you from the inside out. The visions vary, but the sight of a large black beating heart is shared by all. Ruin is alive. Oh crap. I don't think we're done with this game yet then. Regions of Ruin. Oh shite. The Black Heart is thought to be the physical manifestation of Ruin's power. Somewhere on the continent there is a chamber, and within that chamber a core, and near that core a wicked beating evil heart. Why does it exist? Who made it? The current Allfather spent his entire existence surrounded by knowledge, and nothing could have prepared him for this. Norn's disappearance is suspect. He was seen leading an undead host in the north, a goblin horde in the south, and a kobold war party to the east, each citing from a reputable source. The time it would have taken him to lead these armies would simply not be possible. His eyes glowed deep black, smoky trails left behind wherever he walked. Ruin Seekers are a group of exiled caste lords who have been tasked by the Allfather to push back into enemy territory and discover what happened to our hero Norn. Dwarven enclaves have slowly been cropping up over enemy territory, with many dwarves leading singular lives in peace. Communities are the first step to organizing our kin towards the reconquest of our homes. And we've built up a big settlement, so we're pretty much set for life. Roderick appeared in the eastern camps near Under a few years ago. Information is lost, but he wore a caste lord insignia and was obsessed with finding ruin. He mounted a crack group of ruin seekers and began liberating enslaved dwarves. It was enough for most, but other caste lords were wary of his motives. The dwarves, once in the millions, now bordered on the tens of thousands. Without their cores, without their mountain homes, without their heritage, they simply could not be more dwarfs. Ruin knew this. It relished in the fact that it had single-handedly brought down the glue that held together chaos and order. Dwarven neutrality was instrumental in the world's functionality. If there were a dwarven god, it showed its mercy 15 years ago. Where once the united enemy armies had been implacable, they now grew disorganized, malcontent, and unruly. It seems Ruin's influence had lasted a little over 60 years and had now died down overnight. It seemed. The morale of the enemy armies weakened. They were back to infighting and rarely worked together. Sightings of Norn died off completely, and he is little more than a tale we tell to frightened children. Ruin's influence is gone. Dwarves began uniting under a single banner. It would be many years before they would be able to retake a mountain home, but they would. They had to, lest their race fall into oblivion. Each island surrounding the main continent was recaptured, and dwarven enclaves were built on each. The time of the dwarves was coming once again. Wait. Oh! So we were just on an expedition from an enclave. Oh. The loss of Under. Over 2,000 years ago, the Dwarven Golden Age was in full swing. Under was a series of interconnected cities that lie beneath 14 major mountains in the continent's largest mountain range. We had first become the strongest, most robust race in the land, but our desire to explore led us up and into the overland. And out into the overland. The first Dwarven scouts saw life for the first time 2,000 years ago. Until then, we had lived underground. We truly believed the extent of our world was limited to the center of the Under. Discovering the overland was akin to discovering an entirely new existence. Whatever was out there we would understand it. Under soon became a bustling hub of trade. Its giant mountain entrance was accessible by elf, human, and centaur alike. We would trade away our gems, valueless little baubles for furniture, commodities, and most importantly, information. We slowly but surely became the de facto trade hub of the entire continent. Oh, information. We slowly but surely became the de facto trade hub of the entire continent. Within 2 centuries, Under was not only run by its traditional caste lords, but also engaged in overland politics on a continental scale. Our race strove to be the continent's mediators, expanding our influence and helping others with our technological prowess. From the bridges of Lurstrom to the pillars of Highmount, we built it all. 1,000 years ago, there was a political schism, one that affected everyone on the continent. Goblins have crossed the jagged sea to Okay, this isn't working. Goblins have crossed the jagged sea to the east and formed colony after colony, encroaching on the Centaur lands. The humans demanded our kin eliminate them. The Centaur, using this to their advantage, allied with the Goblin hordes and pushed west into human territory. Oh, this explains it. So the Centaurs literally sold out. God dang it, Goblins. Where was the Goblin Slayer when we needed him? The war lasted 500 years and we remained neutral. Our neutrality led to humans and elves to mistrust us, believing we acted only out of profit. We would offer safe haven to any who would enter our lands with the condition no blood be shed on our soil. Hello, viewer. When a wayward human prince murdered a centaur tribal lord, however, we closed our doors for the first time in almost 2 millennia. I'm just reading the lore entry. Come back later when this video is finished when this stream is processed, and you'll see the full story. 200 years passed before we opened our doors again. In such a short time, so much had happened. The centaurs had all but disappeared. The humans pushed back into the far reaches of the continent. In their place, goblin heroes, lich lords, kobolds. What had happened? Hang on. Hey D. I'm just reading the lore entries. I already finished most of the books. This is just the loss of Under. Nord led a series of incursions into hostile territory, but there was no explanation, no rhyme or reason. Something had happened while we turned a blind eye to the world, and the rest had paid the price. Every entrance we sealed, every door and gate we left abandoned was covered in scratch marks. People by the thousands begging for aid. We had abandoned the world, and the world had suffered. The first cast lord fell in the north, felled by hundreds of kobolds hidden in barrels, boxes, and other materials laid out and taken by cart by a small goblin caravan waving a trade banner. The old ways were gone. Nobody was our ally. We had none but our kin to rely on. After the attack on Under and our exile to the east, we realized our own inaction had led us to the edge of global extinction. With new resolve, we set out to retake our land, our world, and revenge on the fallen. Sadly, Nona disappeared, having left to seek the cause of the great ruin east 20 years ago. Dang. Scout's personal log. Memoirs. The westernmost part of the continent was ours. We began crossing the sea to different surrounding islands. Roderick led his feet, liberating. Roderick led this feat, liberating captured dwarves and tasking them with creating outposts and total await dwarven reinforcements. The Plague Doctor is a strange fellow I've heard from time before, but being the young dwarf that I am, I never encountered one. His mask never came off, and his fixation for disease, wounds, and treatments in general was off-putting to say the least. But one thing was clear. He had saved many lives, mine included, on numerous occasions. I was captured a year ago by a small goblin host to the north of our farming haven. We were taken from our homes on the continent and forced east to the sea. We sailed for a fortnight and ended up at a far distant land. It wasn't until Roderick liberated us that we understood that we had been taken to the furthest reaches of the continent. Now, I've heard tell of many ancient runestones in this island. While I'm not sure what they do, I have seen one before. I placed my hand upon it and it lit up blue. It felt warm and cold to the touch, like the coolest obsidian had turned once again magma from whence it came. Then, nothing. I began searching the island's ruins, still to my eternal ally in this endeavor. I learned to mask my scent using local herbs, musk, and a mix of berries, and once managed to discover an ancient, vast underground network of cities. There were hundreds of goblins, led by a single thick-necked, grossly disfigured king. Well, that's who we're gonna kill. I stumbled across the northern breaches, the jagged encampment stretching as far as my eyes could see. This far north, the air was bitter, crisp, clean. The entire area was barren save a single odd troll, its voracious maws gnashing in anticipation of the meal in the form of a horned goat it was about to ingest. I took my leave silently. Its crunching echoed throughout the valley. My first encounter with an elf resulted in his death. Mind you, it wasn't my fault entirely. He drew his bow and fired at my general direction. We dwarfs don't understand the meaning of warning shots, and my aim with the crossbow has always been spot on, and I've not encountered another elf since. I think he just committed genocide on the last elf. Oof. Goblins seem to know as little about each other as we do about them. Bickering, fighting, and insulting constantly. I overheard more than 100 conversations, and all of them were different versions of the same plot to overthrow their current leader. Betrayal is in their blood, it seems. Strange indeed. So it looks like if we don't kill him, the Goblin King's gonna get shanked by his own people. Orcs were new creatures. They smelled new. They looked new. They were unique. They had the intelligence of a human, the strength of a half-troll, and the malice of a goblin. Surely an evil of this caliber had to be an omen, a sign of times to come. I don't know if they are exclusive to this island or not, but if they breed as fast as goblins, we are done for. I'm certain at this point I must have encountered the thing of tales. Ruin. I write everything down. I never forget, yet there is a stretch of 3 weeks in which I have no recollection of what happened. I was investigating something ancient, and I saw red eyes. The eyes remained even when I closed my own. They seared in my mind. I awoke in the wilderness. Was this ruin? Oof. Dang it, ain't it? Ah, the legend of Axebeard. The first Axebeard reigned over 1,000 years ago, and his successors were dubbed as Axebeard II and Axebeard IV, and so on and so forth. Renowned for their mastery of axe throwing, they were beyond good. Excellent, legendary to say the least. It's believed that Axebeard never actually died. The embodiment of his heroism and skill passes on to another dwarf. Dwarves aren't spiritual about it, it merely is seen as a logical explanation for the heritage of Axebeard. It's often that a hero isn't dubbed an Axebeard until their death, or after one of their great heroic exploits. Axebeard IV was only dubbed so when he single-handedly brought down the first Troll King, Jumajin. His feat was extraordinary. Legend says it took 12 thrown axes to sever Jumajin's head, because the thickness was that of a 100-year-old oak. After hearing the tale of Axebeard's triple axe throwing skill, one often asks, how does a dwarf throw 3 axes when he only has 2 hands? The answer is in fact rather simple, and merits the name Axebeard itself. The beard is in fact tied to the 3rd axe with a loosening knot that undulates with the motion of the thrower, and thus 3 axes are propelled simultaneously rather than the standard 1 or 2. Axebeard often made a joke about his foes by nailing them to a nearby wall with 12 throwing axes. The typical goblin would thrash about aimlessly trying to ride free of their entrapment, and Axebeard would laugh with merriment before delivering a final and fatal blow. Many adventuring dwarves to this day aspire to be the embodiment of Axebeard. Although a great and noble hero, he was never settled, and roamed freely to and fro. This was not because of lack of merit or bestowed nobility, but because his heart was set on exploration and the discovery of new lands. Much of the known world is thanks to Axebeard and his brave exploration. Axebeard II was never found. Like many of the other Axebeards, voyages often ended as sudden and mysteriously as a lost coin by the hole in your pocket. Many wondered if he had found somewhere to settle, but most believe he finally met a foe worthy of his skills. Axebeard II never emerged when he delved deep into the Earth's core, searching for the mythical, nameless beast known only as Ruin. Oh boy. The first Axebeard was said to be close friends with Bantas the Rough, who invented the finest designed throwing axes still used to this day. Legend says that Axebeard picked up the first throwing axe, having never touched a weapon before. It came as natural to him as a fawn to its mother's tit. Thus, the hero was born that day. The Axebeard title became renowned among foe and friend alike. It was often told that kings and commanding officers would rumor and announce the presence of Axebeard in their midst, if only to rally their troops with courage and instill fear into the opposing force. Most scribes are still unsure if there were tall tales or in fact truth, as Axebeard had such a meandering presence among the continent. Ghislaine's flora and fauna. Oh yeah, we learned a bit about Ghislaine. Ghislaine was a stout and explorative young dwarf. He rarely walked without a skip and a tune, and was born for the overworld. Although some had attributed his love of things that grew to that of elves, this was much different indeed. Ghislaine's love was by fascination and discovery, however. Thankfully, the deceased elven race loved them sickeningly. They wouldn't even cut down a single tree. Ghislaine was first noted in his ability with growing things when he helped farm the mushroom ravines with his father. But when the dwarven race surfaced, he couldn't count the number of new species and specimens. He set out on a journey to observe and document as much as he could. You'd think they would have actually, you know, learned to grow things underground. I mean, they could build like a greenhouse or something. Ghislaine made an interesting observation of the common skeleton. Although imbued and naturally erected by necromancers, he discovered that they can indeed be found reanimating on their lonesome. How they did so, he was uncertain, but he believed they were actually quite peaceful, when untampered with by foul magic. Well, we got a human butler, so that's the thing. The common kobold, although seemingly inferior due to its poor abilities in speech and agility, are actually quite intelligent. Ghislaine reported that upon meeting a peaceful tribe, they had a wealth of knowledge in plants and algae, and medicinal uses for each. I think we may have met them. Ghislaine's merry and active life was unfortunately cut short by an unfortunate complication between his apprentice's concoction of a simple brew that he'd mistakenly used as a viridian flower instead of a Birken flock. Although seemingly alike in color, one is superb in aroma, and the other is profoundly fatal, only to dwarves. Because of Ghislaine's apprentice's mistake, all dwarves now abstain from both Birkenflock and Viridian flowers to this day. None is certain which is fatal, and which is the scrumptious some dwarves have, and which is scrumptious. Some dwarves have claimed to test it, but even after so, they were unsure if they indeed mixed them up like Ghislaine's apprentice. One of the most odd tales of Ghislaine was that he befriended a cave troll that had tried to kidnap him in the dead of night. The cave trolls became enraptured by Ghislaine's descriptions of and wonderment of all the living things in the overworld. The cave troll rushed out into the sunlight and quickly turned to stone. Stupid cave troll. One of Ghislaine's clever inventions helped the dwarves supersede the troglodytations of the deep, almost thrice the size of a regular troll. It also invigorated his kin to dance and party much more often than normal, which is a lot to a dwarf. His invention would be called the static steel gun. Oh my god. The static steel gun was one of his favorite inventions they would tunnel shafts to the surface down to the deep caverns, and then craft a large stone spear and covered with patches of polished steel. The light would reflect off the ball and would shoot out in all directions, lighting up the cavern and petrifying trolls, followed by celebratory dancing. Did Ghislaine made a... I think he made a disco ball. I think he did. Yeah, that's just funny. Dwarfs, stocky as they were limber, nimble, and dexterous. They weighed a lot more than appeared. Their hardiness ensured only the most terrible of wounds could fell them. It was this that led them to victory time and time again. Most hailed them as inherently magical creatures. So your Dwarven kin. Be right back for a secret. I'm back, sir. I had to use the bathroom. Wish I could pause the stream, but I can't. Internally, a dwarf was similar to a human with a few major exceptions. When the heart was wounded, a smaller secondary heart found nestled behind the stomach would begin to beat, allowing the primary heart to heal. A dwarf's healing capability is only rivaled by a troll. Missing thumbs eventually grew back, a split pancreas could seal, and a gashed brain stem could be sewn together. So that explains our regenerative abilities. Dwarven life expectancy was infinite, but their combative nature and fearlessness is what led them to the grave more often than not. The act of being alive for centuries led dwarves to a boredom that eventually saw them to enlist in the most daring shock troops seeking glorious death in combat. Dang, they are ageless then. Amputation of major limbs was the only thing a dwarf could not heal. Losing an arm would often be treated with a similar pomp and circumstance as the loss of a human life. With subsequent mourning, dwarves, however, were able to infuse their iron with magic to create a prosthetic golem limb to circumvent the loss. Dude, that sounds awesome! The only thing Dwarven doctors have never been able to cure is death. There have been cases of a decapitated leader being stitched together quickly before the nerve endings could die out. But true death is something no dwarf has ever come back from. No one speculated that infusing necromantic rites with dwarven medical practice could work, however. The case of Blood-Eye Fritz, a dwarven castlord who had both eyes slashed in half, is curious. In a later battle against an encroaching enemy dwarven army, he tore out the eyes of an enemy, swapped them for his own, and within a week was able to see as if nothing had happened. Okay, that's just metal as all hell. Ultimately, whether the dwarven lifespan is a curse or a boon is up to the debate. Many dwarves complain that seeing eons go by skews their perception of the world. Squabbles between clans, humans, and orcs seem like petty nonsense to them in the face of an unending existence. Ruin changed everything. Its influence tainted the mountains' hearts, tainted the very souls of the dwarven kin. Dwarves now died of old age. Dwarves thousands of years old began to grow gray and weak, and for the past century had to come to terms with the concept of their own mortality. Dang. Roddenren's rule. Roddenren was fit to be a castlord, and so was his birthright, but he was a warrior, and his speech was not strong nor adequate. His heart was set on combat, and battle he did. Well, humankind. I just check that out sometime. They say there isn't enough stone in the face of the earth to describe the number of injuries he endured. He had an incredible gift of recovering from mortal wounds, and despite his many scars, they all faded and never stopped his battles. His great strength is believed to have imbued even the armor he wore, and so after his passing, his apparel became secret artifacts. Bronerman was fearless and rode headfirst into every battle he fought. He was often surrounded by a dozen foes, but never flinched. Not for a second. It's common knowledge that he took more blows than he gave, 10 times even. Once after a mighty victory, he marched back to the nearest dwarven settlement, walked right past the local physician, and straight into the nearest tavern. He ordered 10 rounds of ale, all for himself, and drank them standing up. Yes, he had a severed buttocks, and he dare not sit down on it. His profound constitution was so miraculous, some dwarves swore they'd seen him lose an arm, and before the thing could grow back, he merely stated, "It's just a flesh wound," and carried on with his entourage. Of course, such tales are unproven. Roddenren was very much against the idea of dwarves surfacing to see the overworld, but it was an ambitious time in dwarven culture. Upon seeing the overworld, Roddenren spat in disgust and withdrew back into the earth. They say he single-handedly kept the foul beasts of the earth at bay, which allowed us to enjoy a lasting peace. Roddenren never again saw the sun. He said it made him feel nauseous, so most of his battles were the creatures and hordes of the deep, once he went missing for a week. And when he returned, he said he'd been ambushed by poisonous cave crawlers. Their poison intoxicated him so heavily he fell unconscious for several days. When he woke up, he finished them off and stumbled home. At the ripe old age of 481, Roddenren finally laid down to rest. No matter how many scars he accumulated, it had no effect on his overall health. He was wide and fat, and his beard grew as long as any good dwarf. Bards still sing of his supernatural gift and wonder why it came upon him. Others seek out his garments in hopes of gleaning some of his power. I think we got one of his pieces, honestly. I'm keeping that shield. The runes... Dwarven inventions. The rune stones have served to guide dwarven kin into their undercities for centuries. At first they pointed directly to the cities, but in recent years, due to the influx of warring races, the stones point towards other stones, triangulating in a position around the city. Dwarven throwing axes are perfectly aligned on both ends, always pierced. The shaft is always pierced. The shaft is hollow so as to facilitate the upward swing, whilst the ends are both recurved and sharpened so as to pierce any armor. Dwarven masons have often hammered fine powder from picket mushrooms in order to make picket flour, an eternally lasting flour that can make bread that never goes bad. The taste of the taste is that of human sourdough bread. Ew. Dwarven artificial limbs feel, look, and act like normal limbs. Nobody but the most secretive dwarven alchemists know how they are made. Even dwarves notice no difference between their artificial and original limbs. Wait, that's it? Dang, that was... Man. Typhook the Rogue. Typhook was always stealthy. He would climb into places unnoticed by any but the most keen observer. He was stealthy and even by human standards, and it shaped his entire life and death. Typhook once stole a goblet from a dwarf while he drank. He switched it with a pewter goblet of inferior quality, took the ruby encrusted in it in the better quality goblet, then switched it back. Typhook lost his hand to an orc blacksmith while stealing his anvil, only to have the blacksmith charmed by the dwarf into constructing an artificial hand for him. Only 3 of its kind exist in the world. Typhook's death is undocumented, with many saying he stole the sands of time from death itself. He is said to be the cause of many thefts in the northernmost regions, with children being told to sleep, lest Typhook come to steal them away. Typhook is known to have stolen a mountain heart for himself, having grown to infamy immediately over such a holy relic's death. He was ousted from the Underhome and cast into the continent. Typhook's trail disappeared 1,000 years ago, well before the current predicament in the world is in. But all signs point to him having created his own Underhome somewhere in the deep east. With what purpose, nobody knows. Typhook's clan sprouted seemingly overnight 500 years ago, leading the credence that he had created an entire clan by using the dwarven artifact. They went on a pillaging spree against the centaur people that lasted a decade. After the human-centaur wars, Typhook's clan became silent. Had they died? Had they moved back into the mountain, hiding and awaiting a better target or opportunity? Maybe ruin had captured them or even enslaved them. Nobody knows for sure. And lastly, Dwarven Drinking. Of course, we have to end it off on Dwarven Drinking. Drinking is not a pastime to dwarves, it is a way of life. They imbibe to feel more in tune with the earth, and they cannot feel the effects of alcohol like mankind do. It invigorates them, fortifies their will, and expands their minds. Drinking games are not so much games as shows of strength of power. More often than not, a dwarven caste lord will use a drinking game to determine land shares, nobility clauses, and social standing. Powerful dwarves can down kegs of milk ale in a single swing. Dwarven ale is enough to thoroughly waste a centaur in a single shot, and dwarves often just a foolhardiness of different species who attempt to drink on par with the smaller, hardier dwarves. Dwarves have 3 spleens, 2 of which serve as additional alcohol distillers that run through their 5th and 6th kidney. It is their anatomical anomaly which allows them to outdrink any other race. Dwarves, however, keep this knowledge to themselves, as that gives them an edge in drinking games with other races. They have 3 spleens and 6 kidneys? They're so short. Ancient dwarven drinking games consisted of tapping on the table to symbolize gathering equipment, materials, or gear. They called it the Dwarven Clicker game. It's available at any tavern if you ask a tavern keep. Wait a minute, that's the game we have! Troll Shank is distilled troll hide mixed with magma fumes. How? It's the strongest liquor a dwarf can imbibe without succumbing to death. It's often used as a rite of initiation for dwarven kin entering adulthood. Troll Shank is responsible for at least one war, when over a glass, a human king was slain due to the glasses having been switched. The human was to have taken whiskey, to which the cast lord was heard to have said, "What is this? Water?" Dwarven drunkenness is very different than human drunkenness. When drunk, a dwarf aims better. He speaks clearer, he reacts faster, but heals slower. A dwarven limb cut off when drunk will apparently rarely regrow, and is the cause of many permanent dwarven deaths. Yeah, I can see that. Well, that's all the lore entries we got. So that explains what that Dwarven Clicker game is. Huh. Yeah. Okay, we read everything now. You know, let's do it. Let's end this, actually. We're gonna go kill the Goblin King. I mean, we already took care of all this. I mean, might as well just wrap this all up in one episode. I never noticed that this storage chest was here. Alright, man. Let's do this. Greetings, hero. I heard the news and decided to come and cheer you on. The Goblin King is a bulbous monstrosity, and I hear nothing but iron can damage his stature. Hero, I have no work for you but the task ahead. I am a loyal follower of our tradition. The answers to our ancestors will be found here. The Goblin King is fat and slow, but he can hit hard. Be careful. So what are you up to, D? I mean, I saw your recent video. Well, the killer is dead, but not the most recent. Let's go. Oh my god, he's huge. Yeah. And he is dead. Ooh, move. Area clear. Yeah. Big dwarf. Big goblin. I don't remember this. With the Goblin King dead and the homeworld passage revealed, the dwarf kind looked to the mountain of Hrothgar. Now the true journey begins for the dwarves, to expedition the depths, to find their ancestors, to become what they were destined for. But who will lead these refugees? Who will guide them through the darkness, to establish dwarf kind once and for all? Yeah, I definitely feel they're gonna make a sequel to this game now. They got to. Congratulations, you've conquered this region and liberated your kin. Oh, I thought that... Oh yeah, this is a bit of a cliffhanger ending, kind of. I mean, we killed the Goblin King, yeah, but... We liberated the continent, we killed the Goblin King, but we're kind of still... We kind of still need to... We kind of like still have to reclaim our ancient cities. But... We did it. We've been regions of ruin. So, final thoughts on this game. Okay, first, great game. Like, it's easy to use on your computer. You've conquered this region. This region. The rest of the world remains to be discovered. Thanks for playing Regions of Ruin. Oh, regions. There's more than one region. Well, we did it. Well, we did it. I mean, there's really not much we can do. I mean, we've practically just conquered the entire continent now. There's nothing we can really do. Let's go try for the Hrothgar. I mean, the Goblin King's dead, and we've taken over this entire region now. So, what's gonna be next? Let's actually see if the Goblin King is actually dead. Yeah, he's dead. Oh, this just repeats the credits. It's kind of amazing that this game was made by just a few people. But, final thoughts. Yeah, this game's fun. It's like Elder Scrolls and Kingdom. Actually, Kingdom is on sale for like 2 something right now. The first Kingdom, not the second Kingdom. That Kingdom 2 crowns. But yeah, we've really come a long way from a simple dwarf to literally liberator of the entire continent. Dwarven refugees are going to be come to Rothgar now. And since I've cleared out the whole freaking continent now, we're basically set for life. Dwarven people will now begin to migrate here and start to reclaim their ancient territories. And with Rothgar fully claimed. Well, I don't know. And we've even planned the whole game. So, what's going to be next? Well, next week's Halloween. And I did think about it. I have a certain game in mind for this. A little horror aspect, and I guess what greater day would it be to return it on to than what greater day to post it and then be on Halloween? Plus I got several days, to take care of it anyway, so I'm just gonna be a little bit relaxing for that day. But I'd like to thank everyone who stood by me to watch this series. Or I guess like to the viewers who watched this after the stream was done. I'd like to thank well, I don't really know who to thank. I mean, I'm glad I managed to 100% this game. And I really do hope that they make a sequel for it, because that ending credits basically just said that this whole region's been conquered now. But there's still other places to go. We read up the lore entries, so now we know that there's more to it than that. Oh, it's very interesting, D. It's very interesting. Kind of wish there was a bit more achievements to it. And if they do make a new game, I really do hope that they expand more upon it. Like, expand more on the concepts of Dwarven society. And I guess if they make a sequel, we go from Rothgar and we start, going down, reclaiming the Undercities. We start to help out other dwarves that were lost. We help them reclaim what's more, and we possibly find out what Ruin is. Okay, that was not my intention. I did not mean to do that. My bad. But yeah. Good thing I'm streaming on weekends so that way I can take a nice big vacation. Until this week. But, yeah. I'm Drinking Mark, and this has been Regions of Ruin. I definitely recommend you guys get this game on PC or also on console if you guys want to. And, yeah. I hope to see you guys in the next time. Till then, leave a like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell icon, and I will see all of you in the next game. Laters.